Still doing a little setup for anyone that's tuning in now. You can tell I was super prepared. Alan in Northeast. Hey, bud. Sorry, I'm still getting set up here. Being a little overly cautious, trying to pull my sleeves up. I'm wearing my new Disneyland hoodie, and I'm going to end up covering it in paint. Oh, I thought I had more of these. I guess I've only got the 3. All right, well, it's going to make that a lot easier. You're going to hear me mumbling for a couple minutes as I wander around here looking for some things. I haven't been in the workshop in probably 3 weeks because I was at Disney, and then I came back and I had a little bit of a cold, so I was fighting that. Let's see. All right, I guess I'm probably as good to go as I'm going to get here. But yeah, this is my workshop. It's as organized as I am ever. It's a bit of a mess. See all kinds of stuff here. A lot of my tools are dollar store specials. You know, these little cups, but you know, for $1.25 for a sleeve of these things, they're perfect for mixing little paints and what have you. A lot of my brushes and everything also come from the dollar store, so shout out Dollar Tree if you're looking to sponsor me. So to bring you up to speed on what I have here, I'm working on, these are the Mutually Assured Destruction Mad monster tanks, kind of worked off the design that was done for our t-shirts. I made a 3D model to kind of resemble the artwork for those shirts, and I print them in multiple parts on my printers over here. I have 3 printers, 2 FDM and 1 resin printer. The tank treads and the tank bodies are all printed on the FDM with filament. Those are slower prints, but you know, they're simple designs, so they work real easy on that particular kind of printer. And then the little Rip Bison and little Perry here, those I print on the resin printer because it's a much higher quality. You know, you can see a lot of, I'm not sure how this is going to come out on camera, but a lot of really good detail on these pieces. And because they're really small, they're also much easier to print on that. So also divvying it up that way means that I can print more faster, which is important because sometimes those machines are taken with other projects. I have a couple educational orgs that I work with where I help them print classroom models, and that's some work that I do on the side. So I guess the first step I'm going to do here, whenever you're printing with FDM, with the filament printers, you end up with a lot of these sort of support materials, and that's because when this prints, every single layer has to be drawn, and then it comes up a little bit and it prints the next layer. And because of that, gravity is fighting you the entire time. So if you have overhangs, like these little wheel wells or the letters on the side here, or the spikes on the front, they have to print support material underneath it so it has something to rest on as the plastic cools. And that's all that is just making sure that you don't end up with drooping designs and everything sort of stays put until it's all solidified. That's one of the troubles you run into working with a thermoplastic, is they are greatly affected by heat, as is the exact reason you would use them. Whereas resin is not a thermoplastic. These are cured by UV light, so they work very differently. So yeah, before I get to painting anything, one thing that's real nice is the tank treads don't require any paint. I have some of them done in black, some of them done in a metallic silver. Very happy with how that filament came out. It's got a really great sort of natural metallic sheen to it, and that's pretty awesome. So what I'm doing, the last round of these I did in black, and then we did highlights in green, sort of trying to match. We had some gear that we made for MAD that was kind of Gravedigger inspired, so we wanted to stick with those colors for now. This one I did the opposite, printed the body in green, and we're gonna hit the highlights when we paint it up in black, and I think that'll also look really cool. It's nice on the merch table to have some really like bright colors for people to see. You know, it's really eye catching. So what I have to do is remove these support materials, and you're gonna see as I do this that it all kind of starts to look a little more like it should. You know. And you know, don't take the way I do this as gospel, because I'm likely to stab my hand off because I'm clumsy and lazy. But I basically use this as a Swiss Army knife I've had since I was a kid, so it's dull as all get out. But I use it to you'll kind of just see I just pry the plastic parts apart. And once that's done, they all it's designed, and you know, the way it's printed is all done, so it just comes right apart. And that's really, you know, that's fantastic. Yeah, they go flying sometimes, but, you know, I wear glasses when I'm not in the ring, so I have ample eye protection, thankfully. But, yeah, these parts all come off pretty quick, these big supports. And you can see what those are for is these little wheel wells. Because when that's printing upright, if there was nothing under that, when the plastic was drawn in there, it would just droop down and sag. And that does no one any good. That's what they call in the 3D print hobby the ramen, and that's where you just end up with squiggles of melted plastic filament everywhere, all over your printer, and it really does kind of resemble a very inedible version of ramen. So yeah, I'm just going to be making my way around and taking these supports off of here, doing my best to not bump when I get hit in the face with projectiles. But yeah, this is like I said, my first time back in the workshop since I went to Disneyland. Took a trip over to the West Coast. I lived out there for many years, and Disneyland is a very special place to me. I was actually married in Disneyland. So my wife and I, we took a trip over there, and we had a great time. You know, we did 5 days in the parks, and which to a lot of people, where there's only 2 parks at Disneyland in California, there's Disneyland and California Adventure. For a lot of people, 5 days might seem like a bit much, but we don't really do the parks the way a lot of people do. A lot of people, it's all about thrill rides, and you know, they're kind of in a big rush while they're there. It's a lot of go go go. For us, it's really more. You know, we like to take in the ambiance of the parks. We like the music. We like the set dressing everywhere. We're both huge Imagineering nerds, which, I mean, this is the small scale Imagineering of my life. So when we get over there and we can see the little details on Main Street USA, or we can see, you know, new changes that have been added to classic rides, we find that really exciting. You know, it's very cool to watch how a project like Disneyland evolves over time. Oh yeah, you can see there's a support in here, and this is actually a little cutout for where the Perry figure kind of sits into this. When this is all assembled, Perry kind of leans out the door driving, and Rip is coming out of the sunroof. So I have to clear all this material out of here, which is one of the more violent endeavors of making these particular toys. If you do pick one of these up at one of our live shows, or if I also take orders via DM on Twitter, you know, that's you know that I've worked for it, because the way this prints, it doesn't like to be taken back apart. All right, just about got that cleaned out. Yeah, it's going to need a bit more. Really, the important part of getting everything out of here is making sure that it's clear enough that the Perry figure will actually fit in there. Oh, wow. I was really prying on this thing, and you can tell because this little piece of metal here used to be the tip of this Swiss Army knife. There you go. It's Swiss Army knife I've had since I was a kid, and it just lost the tip. So, clearly I'm overexerting on this thin plastic. So if anyone says I'm using cheap materials, apparently my plastic designs are stronger than a knife. So that's interesting to know. But yeah, 5 days in the Disney parks. It was pretty great. We did 4 days in Disneyland. That's the original park. If you've only been to the Florida parks, it's the one that's most like Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom is sort of a started off as a bit of a clone of Disneyland. And then we did 1 day in California Adventure, which is, I think the closest thing I could compare it to is probably Hollywood Studios. But it's definitely its own thing, and it's ever evolving. It was only my second time in Hollywood Studios in California Adventure since they added Avengers Campus. So a little mini land devoted to the MCU. And that's pretty cool. I didn't get to go on the Spider-Man ride this time. It was just not in the cards for me. But I did go on their Guardians of the Galaxy ride, which is a retheming of their Hollywood Tower of Terror, the big drop ride. All right, so that is one tank body down. Got 2 more to remove the support materials off of. You can see in the background here I have this it's a protein container that's empty. I always use that for getting rid of my my little bits of support material from 3D prints, because it is all recyclable. And so when I take it to our local transfer station, I can just carry this whole thing in and throw it away and not feel bad about it, because it's all supposed to be together. All right, so this one, it looks like I may have done the cleanup previously on another day. That's good, 2 down. So yeah, I'll get through this one, and then we'll get to some painting. Yeah, this is I'm glad to be back in the workshop after sort of a longer break. You know, I don't like to leave my printers for too long, because things like humidity, random ambient light down here in the basement can get in, and any of that can affect the materials that I use to do my 3D prints. So the less time away from it, the better. But yeah, as I said, we came back from Disney, and I proceeded to have a good little cold. That kept me out of here. I think my voice probably still sounds a little odd. But I'm feeling better, which is a vast improvement. The last day we were in the parks, I think I was probably sick all day, but you know, when you're on vacation and you're having a good time, you don't really notice it. My wife told me that morning, she said, "You look terrible. Are you feeling okay?" And I had no idea what she was talking about. Turns out I was in the early stages of coming down with a cold. It wasn't the dreaded COVID. It wasn't that, because I took a bunch of tests. Anytime I get sick, I take a bunch of tests to make sure. And frankly, anytime I'm sick now, I avoid people anyway, because I don't want to get anyone sick with anything. Amazing how that mindset changed in so many people over the last couple of years here. But yeah, we're let's see. This weekend, Rip and I are headed up to Maine for Let's Wrestle. We are wrestling there on Saturday. We'll have these at the merch table. So anybody coming out for that, you know, feel free to stop by, say hello, tell me you watched the stream. Maybe pick up one of these toys. Now you'll know exactly what went into making it. Yeah, it's an art, not a science, for sure. Although some of it, the actual design work I do on the computers, arguably, is a little of both. But yeah, this weekend we will be wrestling MSP. First time that Matt has gone toe-to-toe with MSP. It's never happened before. They're old buddies of ours. Rip's known them a bit longer than I have, but they're some of the first people that I met when I came back from living in California, and I loved them. They're great. They have incredible matches. They're both incredible people, wonderful people, and very excited to get to work with them. And Ivan Fire J, hey, welcome to the stream. I hope you're enjoying it. You know, it's a pretty laid back, but yeah, excited to wrestle MSP for the first time, because I'm a great admirer of their work, and I think that they're also, like I said, they're great people. They're two of my absolute favorites. Always a joy to see in any locker room. and they have incredible, you know, they're both great performers. And the last couple of years, it's been really a joy to see them breaking out and going more places, you know, seeing them pop up all over. You know, they're on the Big Gay Brunch a few times. They're, you know, getting out to the Midwest, further down south. Just, you know, you love to see it. You know, two great people who work as hard as they do. They really deserve every cool opportunity they get, and they work for those opportunities. You know, as someone who knows what it takes to get booked far away and to get flown in somewhere, it doesn't just happen. It's not just a matter of, oh, well, I asked. No, you gotta work for that. And the two of them, they really embody that. So very excited to finally compete against them with Rip alongside me. I was in I guess it was a fatal four-way that MSP was in with Miracle Generation. I was teaming with Leary at Blitzkrieg, and they also had the team of the CDC in that match. So yeah, I've been in the ring with them before, and I know Rip's been in the ring with them previously, but never were Rip and I were teaming together. So this is a first time encounter on Saturday up in Maine. So really looking forward to that, and I'm excited to be back up in Maine again. You know, I like working for Limitless and Let's Wrestle, and you know, I'm glad to see that they're happy to have me and Rip up there with our particular brand of mayhem that we bring with us. All right, I'm gonna clean up just a little bit here, getting some of these little bits and bobs of plastic out of the way, because I'm ready to move on to doing some painting. If you joined late, like I said, the tank treads thankfully don't require any painting. The truck bodies do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with just one, and I'm going to do it and set it off to the side so it can dry. And in fact, if everyone hangs tight for a second, I got to grab a space heater. That's my secret weapon for getting parts to dry quickly. Setting them a couple of feet away from a space heater on low tends to really speed the process up. So, all right, there we go. Find them something to set them on. There we go. Yeah, as you can tell, whenever I wander away, it's a pretty good indicator that I'm completely disorganized. This stream was sort of a last-minute decision because I realized I have this show Saturday, and we had sold out of our monster tanks, which is a good problem to have, admittedly, but a problem that needed to be rectified. So when I paint these, one of the nice things about working with 3D printed UV resin or with standard, this is a plastic known as PLA. That's a filament used in FDM printers. When you work with that, you can paint them with just simple craft store acrylic paints. And honestly, I get mine typically at the Dollar Tree, sometimes at Walmart. Depends on who's got the better deal at the moment. And they last forever. I've had these a long time. You do have to shake them up pretty good before you use them. And sometimes they require multiple passes. You got to do a few coats, but my experience with these has been that one coat really kind of does the trick. All right, if that's not mixed up, then I don't know if it ever will be. All right. And again, little cups from the Dollar Tree. Not a sponsor, but man, that would be awesome if they were. All right. Really doesn't take much at all. A little bit's going to go a very long ways here. And again, I am all about reusing stuff, recycling stuff, finding what's around. You're going to see me use this. This is a little square of just packing material that I cut out of an Amazon package. And then let's see, for these little front pieces, I think I'd like to use, this little brush here. That's definitely a Dollar Tree special. They come in a multi-pack. So what I'm going to do first is take care of the parts on the front here. I like to paint the spikes, and I like to paint this little horned skull first. And I don't know if it's going to focus up okay, but the details on that skull, even for an FDM print that is, you know, not super high res, it just looks so cool. You know, I can't tell you how much fun it's been making my own toys. You know, I grew up collecting monster truck toys when I was little, much to the I think confusion and maybe bewilderment of my parents. We were not a family that would have gone to monster truck events or anything like that. You know, my parents were far more the type to take me to, I mean, my dad would play classical music for us pretty much all the time. And, you know, I have folks who've been on Broadway on both sides of my family. And yeah, so I think my fascination with what I lovingly refer to as the redneck arts, monster trucks and pro wrestling, I think was always a little confusing to my parents. As I've gotten older, they've definitely come to understand it more. When I was younger, they were, I think, rightly dismissive of, well, you know, he's young, it's probably a phase. But now that I'm closing in on 16 years in the ring, I think they're beginning to realize it's maybe not so much of a phase. But yeah, I don't do a ton of work on the painting on this. You know, I like to come in, I paint the spikes. I think that looks really cool. Makes it stand out at the merch table. I paint the this little guy, the skull guy. I like to paint him up, make him stand out a little. And you can see it, the color really pops on here. It really doesn't take much to stand out. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun making these toys, because I grew up with monster truck toys. When I was real little, a kid came to my babysitter's with a videotape of Return of the Monster Trucks, which was the first ever televised side-by-side monster truck racing. This would have been probably the year it came out, which was 1986. I would have been 2 whole years old. And a kid brought this tape. Yeah, that's looking pretty cool now. A kid brought this tape to the babysitters, and we watched it, and that was it. I was in love with this stuff. I thought those big trucks running stuff over was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. And I went home, and all I would talk about was monster trucks, even though I'd only seen one little videotape. I went off about it. And so my parents, you know, wanting to support the first thing I ever, now I'm just using this, you'll see it's just almost like a stamp. I'm just gonna hit the tops of the lettering here, and it's really gonna make it kind of come to life and stand out. But yeah, my parents wanting to support the first ever hobby or interest that I brought home on my own at age 2 from the babysitters. Yeah, look at that. That's looking good. I think I'm onto something here. But yeah, wanting to support that, wanting to, you know, see their little 2-year-old happy, ran out to the store, and it took quite a while because there weren't any toys at the time of monster trucks. They were still a very new thing in the world of pop culture. So there were no toys. Yeah, here we go. There you go. And this is giving you a pretty good idea how this is going to look. I'm going to go set this over so the paint can dry, and I'm going to work on some of these guys so we can get one of these whole things assembled up for you before the stream ends. I'm going to try to end before 8 o'clock in case folks want to go watch Wrestling Open. I don't want to encroach on their time at all. But yeah, I'm going to go set this in front of the heater. So, yeah, Return of the Monster Trucks. I watched that, fell absolutely in love with what I was seeing, and my parents wanted to support, so they looked for toys, and eventually they found the Matchbox Superchargers, which was the original, the very first line of monster truck toys, which I have some here. These are two original Matchbox Superchargers from I believe it's 1986. Yeah, 1986. Rollin' Thunder and Mad Dog 2, based on two real monster trucks. Rollin' Thunder was actually on that VHS, and was one of the earliest toys I ever got. And now I have the complete collection as of a couple months ago for the first time in my life, which is very cool and just surreal. You know, something I never really thought I would actually have. So now I get to make my own toys, sort of in that same vein, these miniature sort of monster truck toys. And to make them my own, I've made them every time where I'm in the driver's seat. And in this particular iteration, it is a tag team. It's me and Rip Bison. And this is my little Rip figure. And the only part that gets painted on him for this is his hair and his beard, which I don't really know if my thumb next to it really gives you the scale, but it is very small and very finicky. You know, it takes some work, but I think it's worth it because at the end, when I put these on the merch table, I'm really proud of them. And, you know, I've definitely seen, in my time in wrestling, I've seen guys who are just happy to sell whatever, to fans. And I get that, you know, you got to make your money. And, that's one of the most tried and true ways to do it. But I don't know, there's something really special about when a fan looks at something you made and they appreciate it, and you can sit there and know what you did to make it, and it feels really good to have people praise that. You know, it's so different from having them praise a match you had or something like that, because, you know, that's what we do, right? What we do is have those matches and those performances. So we know if we're good at them. We know when we've had a good one. And the praise is always good to hear. But when a fan praises you for something else, like making a toy or having a cool shirt design, or for some guys it's maybe a video they put out online, that's really special because it's something that you maybe don't have that same confidence in. And hearing that is very cool. All right, Rip's coming together here. This is the part where I have to be very careful because I don't want to get my fingers in the paint and smear anything. Usually I throw on some gloves when I do this, but I was talking, and I love the sound of my own voice, so I wasn't thinking about it. All right, Rip's looking pretty good. Touch up his hairline. He doesn't have as god-awful a hairline as I do. But give him 10 years. We'll see how it's looking then. Yeah, that's most people would never guess that Rip is 10 years younger than me. You know, people just see us in the ring and together all the time, and they might not, you know, you might not guess that. But yeah, there's a pretty big age gap there. But, you know, wrestling transcends age. All right, and just like that, bam, we got a Rip Bison. All right, I'm going to take him. You can see I have these sort of crazy concocted contraptions of clamps here. And that's because they very gently hold Little Ripper, and then they will stand up safely. So I can take it and go set it in front of the space heater, and he'll dry off without anything smearing. So I'm going to do that now. Okay. And now I'm going to, usually I like to use the same brush. I'm going to keep it out for when I get back to doing more black. I don't have to clean it off. I have made this all very easy because I have just black does the highlights on the truck and the color on Rip. And this kind of yellowish, kind of a deep yellow, they call it a gold on here, is a pretty good approximation for my hair and my beard. And certainly it reads the right way on the toy. And that's really what matters there. You know, again, it's a cartoonish embellishment. That's all toys at their peak are really a cartoonish representation of something else. It's you know, you see that in a lot of sculpture, and I think it translates over to what we classically have kind of come to learn to be toys and toy culture. You know, a good example on that Rollin' Thunder toy from the 80s. This is not a to-scale perfect representation of a monster truck, but it absolutely reads as the truck that I saw in that video. And its cartoonish kind of scale and build is just so appealing and so cool. And definitely as a kid, you know, having those toys really was a part of what made me fall in love with monster trucks, and it's carried on to this day. All right. That should be pretty well mixed up. Give a little, and again, this is just more dollar store paint. You know, no sense trying to get fancy with it. It is, after all, a piece of plastic that I made myself to sell. You know, it's not even meant to be a high-end toy. It's just meant to be something people can take home and remember their time at the show. All right, and here is this is Perry. You're going to notice I'm missing a limb, and me and Rip are both missing the bottom halves of our body, and that's so that, in my case, I can sit coming out of the window from my driver's seat, and in the case of the Rip figure, he sits right in this little hole here, coming out of the sunroof, cheering us on. So yeah, that was a little bit of cool engineering I got to do in my 3D modeling software to make that happen. All right, let's pick out a nice fine brush here. You know, it's a hard line to walk. You want one that's pretty fine so that you can do the little mustache and the little beard. But you also want one that's kind of thick and big enough that when you're doing their hair, it doesn't take forever. All right, I'm going to go in with this brush, see how we get on, and if I hate it, I'll just grab another one. I got a whole pile of them there. If I have to, I'll take the one that has the black paint on it and clean it off. All right. That's pretty loaded. I don't want to use that on the face yet and end up making a mess, so I'm just going to start up on his hair, let it kind of work some of the paint out of the bristles. All right, now I'm going to come down on the face here, and let's one side of the mustache, and that's the other. And that's you know, one thing that I did that I was pretty careful about when I was designing these is I wanted anything that I knew I had to paint to be sort of raised on the 3D design. That way I could have a fair shot, not being known for my particularly steady hand or anything. I'd have a fair shot at getting the paint where it needed to be, and you know, nowhere else. Which can be challenging. Anyone who's done like miniature painting, like for D&D or anything like that, which much to the shock of anyone who knows me well, I've never played D&D. It seems like it would be a perfect fit for me, but it never happened. You know, this is very similar to that, where you're painting a very small miniature, and you're just trying to take something that's a little plain, a little one-dimensional from the outset, and you're trying to give it some distinct qualities. You know, you want it to feel like something from the real world, and in this case, I want it to feel like it's me. And it's not something I've ever done a lot of. I can't say that prior to making these toys I did a lot of this in my adult life. As a kid, for sure. My friends and I would take apart our toy trucks and our action figures, and we would repaint them and slap them together in different configurations. You know, we tinkerers. My childhood best friend Clayton and I were particularly known for that. We would buy cheap toy trucks with our allowance from Walmart and immediately start tearing them apart as soon as we got them home because we wanted them to look like a monster truck we'd seen on TV. So that was, I guess there's worse ways to kill an afternoon when you're, 10, 11 years old. Some kids were getting in big trouble at that age, and I was more likely getting in trouble for misplacing tools in my dad's workshop or making a mess in the garage. I was lucky. I grew up with a dad who was very supportive of my tinkering and goofiness. He's a mechanical engineer. He's still in favor of my tinkering and my goofiness. He comes over and helps with projects around our house sometimes, and is in his 70s, putting his life and well-being on the line to help my wife and I keep the house together. All right, so that's Perry, and I'm going to go set him in front of the heater as well. I have another one of these little clamp contraptions. And while he dries up, I'm going to work on the rest of these tank bodies here. All right, let's see. Set on something. Here we go. All right. So Disney was a great time. Like I said, we spent 5 days there, which to a lot of people seems like a really long visit. To us, I mean, it's taxing on your body. It's a lot of time standing up. We did the park straight through. We did not take an off day, and that's a lot of time on your feet and walking. I took a look at the app on my phone, and it looked like it was some 30-something thousand steps per day, which is for anyone who counts their steps, it's a lot. It really is. And I was feeling it by the time I came home, and part of that was definitely that I'd caught a little cold bug while I was there. But I think part of it is just, being 230 pounds, over 6 feet tall, and standing all day. But yeah, we had a great time. We got to see Fantasmic, one of the last times it was up before. For those that don't follow Disney Park news, the show Fantasmic has a great finale. It's a great story about Mickey exploring his dreams, and at one point, his nightmares start to take over. And all the villains kind of take over the dream. And it's this incredible live show that happens on water and on a huge stage. There's fireworks, there's live characters, there's animatronics, there's boats, there's water effects, laser effects. It's really, really amazing. And shortly after we got home, the finale of the show is when Maleficent, the evil queen, reveals herself in her dragon form, and a huge 30-40 foot dragon appears on the stage kind of from out of nowhere and proceeds to breathe fire down onto the rivers of America that run through Adventureland and Frontierland, and mostly out there through New Orleans Square, which is kind of where you sit for the show. And catches the whole lake on fire. It's a huge, really exciting effect. Very, very cool. And a couple days after we left, the Maleficent dragon malfunctioned, and it caught fire and burnt down. So Fantasmic has not been performing for a little bit now, a couple of weeks anyway. And that's a real bummer. I'm glad we got to see it while we were out there, because we hadn't seen it in years. It was down for refurbishment the last time we went before we moved back from California in 2017. And then the next time we were in California and wanted to see it was right after the world had kind of started to reopen. We took a trip out there. And they hadn't started doing any of their live shows again yet. So Fantasmic was still down. So this is the first time we've seen it since 2016. And I was very happy to see it. We also got to see the nighttime fireworks. The first time we've had a really good view, and that's because we had the preferred seating. They put seats, these nice benches out in the hub on Main Street, USA, for certain folks who get reserved seating. We are not special enough that way, but our good friend at 33 Wonderland on Twitter, who is a fantastic Diz Twitter personality, great photography. There's another one done. I'll set this over in front of the heater. But 33 Wonderland does some fantastic photography around the parks, has a great eye for little things that you might not notice unless you were looking for them, which is very exciting. And we became Twitter friends, and then we were out there in it would have been October 2021, because it was our 10-year wedding anniversary, and we got to meet 33 Wonderland for the first time and hang out and go on a couple rides, and we did that again. Went on a few rides together, and then she was kind enough to share her preferred seating with us for the fireworks show, which my wife is short. She's short. She is 5'1", she would say. I would say that she's being generous. So seeing the fireworks in the parks has always been a challenge for her. And at this particular instance, not a problem at all. We had a fantastic view, and it was a great show. And that was all on the first night that we were there. We got to see the fireworks in Fantasmic, which was really, really nice. Great welcome back to the parks. And then we proceeded to dig in and enjoy ourselves over the next few days. We got to do a lot of things that we don't always get to do when we're at the parks, because we really felt like we could take our time. We got to go into Trader Sam's for the first time. We've eaten outside at the terrace before, but this time we actually got to go in and see all the cool... For those who don't know, Trader Sam's is a tiki bar in downtown, or I guess it's technically at the Disneyland Hotel. And it is enchanted, like the tiki room, meaning that some parts of it come to life while you're in there. If someone orders a hurricane, for example, the entire staff starts shouting that there's a hurricane, and the room comes alive. There are windows that appear to be looking out onto a beautiful beach, and suddenly there's storms, and the lights are flickering, and you can hear thunder. It's very, very cool. Really interactive and pretty awesome. It's just a really, really cool atmosphere. I dig that mid-century tiki vibe. I collect old tiki records myself. Very cool to get to do that for the first time. All right, and that is the last tank body painted. I'm going to set that in front of the heater, see if our other parts are ready so I can maybe get one of these guys assembled for you before we call it a night on the stream and I let everyone go check out Wrestling Open on IWTV. All right. All right, those are going to need another minute, so I'm going to paint a couple more of these, the little guys here. My allergies have been insane, so I apologize for any coughing or sniffling on the stream. But it's yard work season, and I'm one of those lucky guys who has terrible allergies for pollen and what have you. So, just bear with me on that. All right. Get in here and start on this rip figure. Once again, this weekend, we will be at Let's Wrestle in Maine, taking on MSP. One of the, look, let's not mince words. They are one of the coolest tag teams on the indies. There's not really any two ways about it. They are they're just cool. You know, they've got a great look. And in recent times, they've really found themselves. You know, that's one of the hardest things to do in wrestling, is to find yourself, find your voice, find what you're about. And those two really embody it. All right. So yeah, I'm excited to get in and mix it up with those two, because again, it's the first time Rip and I have ever wrestled them as a team, and it's the first time I've ever been in a, you know, just straight up tag match with either of them. I've been in Battle Royals, I've been in, like I said earlier, a Fatal 4-Way at Blitzkrieg Pro against them. But this will be the first time I've been in an encounter with them that's just tag team versus tag team, which is pretty exciting. You know, that's their specialty, and frankly, I'm really looking forward to it. I think we're gonna have one heck of a match, and I mean, obviously, I think we're going to win, but you know, I think if you asked MSP, they would insist they're going to win, and that's the mark of a tag team that believes in themselves, right? So who could fault them? Either way, it's going to be a great time and a match to remember, I'm sure. All right, and that's Ripper. So I'm going to put him on a little clamp here. It's a very fancy little binder clip. I'm going to go set that in front of the heater. All right, as long as I got that color out, I'll do the other rip here. Yeah, so the Disney trip was a lot of fun, and it always is for me. It's one of my favorite places in the world to go, especially the California parks. I love Disneyland and California Adventure. Having lived in California for a number of years, they really feel like my home parks. But also, when I was 12, my family took the first vacation we ever took together. You know, we didn't grow up with a ton of money, so we didn't. In the summers when everyone else went on vacation, we were at the babysitters because there was no school and my parents were at work. And we finally took our first vacation when I was 12. My brother was 11. And we went to California. We had some family out there. We went to San Diego, checked out the San Diego Zoo, and we went to Disneyland. And I think that really made an impression on me. You know, not to underplay it at all, but I think that experience, it was one of the first times I ever got to see my parents really relaxed and like enjoy themselves, because I think they felt a lot of the pressure was off them, because my brother and I were so into being on the trip that we were both really behaving. And you know, it wasn't their job to do our laundry, it wasn't their job to, you know, they didn't have a house to maintain on the trip, so they got to relax for one of the first times ever. And you know, in that instant, they were less my parents and more my friends for the first time. And I think that really made a difference to me on how I view the Disney parks. And frankly, that's what Walt wanted out of them. He wanted it to be a place where kids could have fun and their parents could also enjoy themselves. Because prior to his parks, that kind of thing didn't exist. You know, children's entertainment was for children and adults' entertainment was for adults, and that's just how it was at the time. You know, thankfully, not how it is anymore, you know. There's a lot of movies for kids that adults can enjoy and have a good laugh. I think the Muppets really embody that in a lot of ways, especially when you watch old Muppet Show episodes. All right, and what I'm doing here, because I'm just using acrylics, they are water soluble. So I'm just pouring out a little water so I can clean out. I'm finished with the brush here that I used for the black. I'm going to clean that out. I have some paper towels right here too. But yeah, never let your brushes sit for too long. That's how you ruin a nice brush. And admittedly, these are dollar store brushes, so I buy them in bundles at the dollar store. So if something happens to them, you know, it's not like I'm out, but it's also a little wasteful just to treat something poorly because it's inexpensive. You know, money isn't the only determiner of value. You know, always take care of your tools, right? All right, got that cleaned out now. Feeling good about that. And I actually really like this brush, so I'm going to keep it out and I'm going to use it for the rest of the Perry painting. But that means I got to clean this little yellow one off here, the one that I used for Perry earlier. Not really, that sort of fine straight point there is not really my favorite style of brush. At least not for this particular use case. But yeah, the entire process of making these toys, where I do a little 3D design and then I do some test prints, and then finally I end up with what I consider a production model where all the parts are going to behave themselves and work well, has been really fun. And I'm actually looking forward to getting to try a few different things. You know, I have some oil clays, I have some modeling clay, I have thermal resin that is a 2-part resin that you can pour into a mold and you can make toys that way. I also have a silicone mix for silicone molds, and I've done a bit of that in the past, sort of just trying it out really. And I'm looking forward to maybe doing a bit of that in the future, where maybe I start with sort of a rough model of what I want a piece to look like, and then I finish it off with some clay and do a little sculpting on it for all the details. All right. So we gotta paint up our little Perry here. So I'm gonna get a bit of this yellow. And I think after this, our first Perry, first rip, and the first tank body should just be dry enough that I can do a bit of assembly. All right. The real shame is that I've got a little screen up here so I can see the stream, so I can keep an eye on the chat and such. And I can see what I'm doing on it, but I don't trust myself to look over at it while I'm working, especially on details this small. So I have no idea how the painting is looking on screen, if you're actually getting to see what's happening here, or if you're just hearing me ramble incessantly. Either way, thanks for joining. I hope you're enjoying the stream. Only the second time I've done it. The last time I didn't have my Twitch settings set up so that it saved the stream, so it's long gone. It's if you were there, you got to experience it, and if you weren't, well, that's the end of it. It's gone now. But this one should be saved, and I'm probably gonna download it and throw it onto my my YouTube. Yeah, I making content, as the kids like to call it, is something that I've been doing a really long time. I was really early on in some of this. My Perry YouTube page has been up since 2008, and I was always very insistent that I wanted to document everything that happened to me in wrestling, because one day I wouldn't be doing it anymore, and I'd like to be able to look back and see some of it. And that's turned out to be very valuable to me. I mean, some of it's a learning process, watching matches back, seeing what I could do better, seeing what I did well so I can keep doing it. Some of it is just fun memories, doing the vlogs like I do now. That's been really cool. I've looked back at a few from a few years ago, and it's just really cool to look back and see like something you did with a group of friends that you'd otherwise forget about. Some of the trips to Kaiju Big Battle and what have you. That's another Perry all painted up. I'm going to go set him in front of the heater. All right, let's bring some of these back here. Move this brush and paint out of the way for a minute. Yeah, this first rip is dry, so I'm going to take him off his little clamp. Set him over here. And let's see, what else have we got that's finished up? How's this first Perry looking under the light? he looks dry to me, or at least darn close to it, so I'll set him out of the way too. Move these clamps. I got one last Perry to paint. I might do that off camera. All right, and let's take a look and see. How do we do on... Yeah, it looks like this first tank is about dry too, so I can do my first rough assembly here. All right, let's just check and make sure Perry can fit in his little home. Looks good to me. Rip fits. All right. And then all we got to do is attach some tank treads. So I always put the tank treads on first, and that's because I don't want to be bumping the figures when I go to put the treads on. So this first one I'm going to do with some of these metallic. Again, anyone who wasn't watching earlier, I think it does read on camera pretty well how sort of metallic this all looks, and that was just dumb luck. I picked sort of silver grayish. I think it's a space gray was what it was called, for my my printing filament, in the hopes that I wouldn't need to do any painting on it. And behold, lucky me, it worked out just fine. So these sort of sit on here like this, and yeah, you can see right there, once that's like that, you can see that old school Virginia Beach Beast monster tank look. Yeah, very excited with how that's worked. So, giving away all my secrets here. I use super glue with the accelerator. If you've never used accelerator with super glue, it is the best. It really it makes everything set much faster and way stronger. So what I'm going to do is I kind of know where all this sits and how it works because I've done a bunch of these, but I just put a little glue on the back side here. That would have been a real bummer if I was out of glue and had to call it on the stream. Should have checked that before I started, I guess. If I can set that there, it's not fast enough that it's going to set without me. And then I'm going to take this stuff, and I want to do it far away from this, but I'm just going to spray a little bit along here. And it just comes out like a spray, like almost like bug spray. And you can see the sort of sheen of where it is on there. And in fact, I'm going to use a little stick here to kind of make sure it's everywhere I need it. And now I can take this tank tread, and I know about where it needs to line up, so I'm just going to get it on there and then hold it tight. And it only takes a second, and that is dry. That ain't going anywhere. So that's one. And now I'm going to do another one on the other side, and then we'll be able to add these on, and I usually go back and do a little stream of glue on the inside just to give it some structure, you know, give it a little extra strength. All right. But yeah, same process now. But yeah, as you can see, there's a fair bit of work to go into what's, you know, in a lot of ways feels like a bit of a silly toy. But not silly to me. To me, it's important. All right. So we want to take this. I want to go... I always try to make sure they're about even from side to side, which can be pretty hard to tell until it's already done. But yeah, that's looking pretty good. All right. And you'll see that's all it took. It stands. It's done and ready to roll. Yeah, that's looking great. All right, now we got to glue in our guys. So I do the Perry first because he goes in at kind of a funny angle, and I always want to make sure I'm holding him right. And in fact, I'm going to use a glove for this because I've got little bits of paint on me, and I don't want to smear anything where it shouldn't be. All right. So I like to come in here with the glue, and I'm pretty generous in here because you never know what surface is going to make contact, and you want everything working to hold old Pear Bear in place. All right, so it's all glued up. Now I'm going to take Perry over here, and I'm going to just spritz him just a little with the accelerator, and you'll hear it. Yep, just a little spritz. You see he's shining a bit. Come back. Got a little bit escaping there. Don't want any smears of anything where it shouldn't be, you know. Take pride in your work. All right, and now I'm going to take old Pear Bear here. I'm going to stuff him right in and hold him in place. And it's only going to take a couple of seconds, and then he is going to be set right there. Like yeah, that's that. He tried to keep my glove with him. He's not going anywhere. That is a set parry coming out of the driver's side. Now the rip is a lot easier. The rip's way easier. I'm going to go ahead and put a good goop of super glue right there. Take Rip just off camera here and give him a little spritz. Just a little bit. Probably, yeah, there we go. Just want to make sure it's where I need it. And now we're going to stuff him in real quick because this stuff sets real fast. And that is that. That is our first finished tank, and I think it looks great. You know, I think the green is a really good look. I like how the letters offset. The silver treads, we're going to have one set with black treads. But I think this looks fantastic. So yeah, we're gonna have these at the show this weekend in Maine. And these are going to be selling for $30 a piece. Or we have a couple of Mad shirts. If you buy a shirt and a tank, it's $40 for the set. Which, you know, given the amount of work I put into these, I think is a pretty good deal. And, you know, Rip's happy with it too. So there he is. There's our monster tank ready to roll on into Maine this weekend and crush MSP. Yeah. So I'm going to call that the stream for today. That's one finished. I'm going to assemble the rest of these after I go off the air. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I hope you had a good time. And again, we will be, myself and Rip Bison Mad, we will be wrestling this weekend at Let's Wrestle up in Maine. You can look them up on Twitter at Let's Wrestle 207, I believe it is. And as always, you can follow myself and Rip. We're easy to find. And yeah, if you like the stream, tell a friend. And if you didn't, just keep it to yourself. All right. Thanks for joining. Take care.